That morning, no one expected a single act of defiance to change military history. What began as routine training became a moment every soldier on base would remember, and one that would test the difference between following orders and doing what's right. The sun hung low over the Virginia woodlands, casting long shadows through the pines that bordered the SEAL training grounds at Little Creek. Petty Officer First Class Marcus Hale adjusted the strap of his plate carrier, the weight settling familiarly across his shoulders. At 34, Hale had run these drills 100 times, navigation exercises designed to hone instincts under simulated stress. But today, the air carried an unusual chill, the kind that seeped into bones despite the summer humidity. "Line up," barked Chief Petty Officer Ramirez, his voice cutting through the morning mist like a knife. The team assembled in formation, 12 operators, their boots aligned on the dew-slick gravel path leading from the barracks. Uniforms were crisp, digital camouflage pants tucked into lace-up boots, tan shirts bearing the Trident insignia. Hale stood third in line, his gaze fixed forward, as protocol demanded. To his left, Rex, his Belgian Malinois partner, sat at heel, ears pricked, black fur glistening from an overnight rinse. The dog's harness matched Hale's gear, a silent extension of the man himself. Rex had been Hale's shadow for 6 years, since the pup's first deployment in Afghanistan. Their bond was forged in silence, nights patrolling dusty villages, Rex alerting to IEDs with a low rumble no human ear could match. Hale scratched the dog's flank absently, a gesture permitted only in these quiet moments before the whistle. "Steady, boy," he murmured, feeling the steady rise and fall of Rex's ribs against his knee. Ramirez paced the line, clipboard in hand. "This is a standard woodland recon. Insert at 0600. Navigate 5 clicks to the extraction point. Hostile sims inbound. Stay sharp. Hale, your K9 leads point on scent trails. No deviations. Questions?" The team responded in unison. "No, Chief." Eyes met briefly, nods of respect, the unspoken trust that bound them. Hale's platoon mates were veterans, Lieutenant Ellis, cool under fire, Corpsman Diaz, who'd patched more wounds than Hale cared to count. They loaded into the Humvees, engines rumbling to life with the scent of diesel and oiled metal. Rex hopped into the back seat beside Hale, paws planted firm as the vehicle lurched forward. The drop-off was a clearing edged by dense underbrush, ferns brushing against the tires. The team dismounted in silence, weapons slung low, training M4s loaded with blanks. Ramirez checked his watch. "Move out! Hale, Rex on point!" Hale clipped the leash release, and Rex bounded ahead, nose to the ground, tail low and focused. The path wound through the woods, sunlight filtering in shafts that danced on moss-covered roots. Bird calls echoed faintly, drowned by the crunch of boots on fallen leaves. 2 clicks in, the routine shifted. Hale caught it first, a faint irregularity in Rex's gait, the dog's head snapping up from the dirt trail. "Easy," Hale whispered, scanning the tree line. The team fanned out, maintaining interval, but Rex whined softly, pulling toward a cluster of oaks off the marked path. Hale tugged the lead. "Negative, Rex. Stick to vector." But the dog persisted, nose working the air, leading them toward a faint splash of color on the forest floor. Hale knelt, gloved hand brushing a leaf. Blue paint, streaks, irregular, like fingerprints dragged through wet undergrowth. Not part of the sim. His pulse quickened, but he kept his voice level. "Chief, anomaly at grid 23 to 45. Paint drops, non-standard." Ramirez approached, squinting. "Kids from the base family housing, probably. Ignore it. Focus on primary objective." The chief's tone brooked no argument, his eyes flicking to the stopwatch. Hale nodded, but Rex strained again, a low growl building in his throat. The paint trail veered deeper into the thicket, away from the exercise route. Hale hesitated, the chain of command a weight heavier than his gear. Orders were clear. Maintain course, no side missions. But Rex's instincts never lied. The dog had saved lives by chasing shadows others dismissed. "Hold," Hale said quietly to the team, unclipping the lead. Rex bolted a few yards ahead, pausing to sniff, then whining urgently. From the brush came a rustle, faint but deliberate. Hale signaled Ellis, who covered him as he advanced. There, huddled against a fallen log, was a boy, no older than 8, face streaked with dirt and that same blue paint. His eyes widened at the sight of the seals, but fear turned to desperate relief. "Help my sister," he whispered, voice cracking like dry twigs. "She fell, in the ravine. She's hurt bad." The words hung in the humid air, radio static crackling faintly from Ramirez's comms as he caught up. Hale's mind raced. Protocol screamed to report and continue. Secure the objective first. Civilians on base grounds weren't uncommon. Family hikes strayed sometimes. But the boy's trembling hands, clutching a smeared jacket, spoke of real panic. Rex nosed closer, licking the child's fingers gently as if affirming the plea. "Chief," Hale said, keeping his tone even, "possible medevac needed. Get sister down, potential injury." Ramirez's jaw tightened. Glancing at the team arrayed behind him, the exercise clock ticked invisibly, evaluators no doubt monitoring from afar. "Negative, Hale. Radio-based security. We finish the run, then they handle it. That's the chain." Hale met his superior's gaze, the woodland silence amplifying the tension. Rex sat beside the boy now, a furry sentinel, while the paint drops trailed toward a shadowed drop-off 20 meters away. Duty pulled one way, obedience, the rhythm of the unit. But conscience tugged harder, embodied in the child's wide eyes and the dog's unwavering stare. For a moment, Hale's hand hovered over his radio, the decision crystallizing in the dappled light. The team waited, breaths held, as the first ripple of defiance stirred. Ramirez stepped closer, voice low. "That's an order, petty officer." Hale nodded slowly, but his eyes lingered on the trail, where Rex's nose twitched toward the unseen ravine. The morning mist clung to their boots, the woods holding its breath. Hale's fingers tightened on the radio handset, the plastic warm from his grip. The boy's plea echoed in his ears, raw and unfiltered, cutting through the disciplined haze of the exercise. Rex shifted beside the child, his dark eyes locked on Hale, as if the dog could sense the fracture forming in his handler's resolve. The woodland air thickened with the scent of pine sap and damp earth, the team's formation holding like a coiled spring behind them. "Copy that, Chief," Hale replied, his voice steady, though the words tasted like gravel. He keyed the radio. "Base security. This is Team 7 on Woodland Recon. Report of civilian distress at grid 23 to 45. Young male, possible sibling injury in adjacent ravine. Request immediate response." Static hissed back, followed by an acknowledgement from the watch officer. Routine, detached. Hale clipped the device to his vest, but his gaze drifted to the paint-streaked trail snaking into the underbrush. Blue flecks dotted the leaves, irregular and fresh, leading toward a steep embankment where the ground dropped away into shadow. Ramirez nodded curtly, satisfied. "Good call. Mount up, back on vector. Ellis, take point now." The lieutenant moved forward without question, his boots silent on the moss. The team reformed, a fluid shift born of endless drills, weapons at low ready. Hale urged the boy to his feet gently. "Stay put, son. Help's coming." The child nodded, wiping his nose on his sleeve, but his eyes pleaded silently as Hale turned away. Rex didn't follow. The dog remained planted, nose twitching toward the ravine, a soft whine escaping his throat. Hale paused mid-stride, the leash dangling loose from his harness. "Rex, heel!" The command was firm, ingrained from countless obedient sessions in the K9 kennels. Sharp whistles, rewarded sits under floodlights. But Rex held his ground, ears flattening, his body language screaming alert. Hale felt the pull, that invisible tether stronger than any chain. In the field, Rex's nose had unraveled ambushes, sniffed out hidden caches in sun-baked ruins. Dismissing it now felt like ignoring a compass in fog. "Petty officer," Ramirez said, his tone sharpening as he noticed the hesitation. The chief stood a few paces back, arms crossed over his chest plate, the morning light glinting off his rank insignia. "We don't deviate. You know the regs. Training integrity first. Base security's en route." The words were protocol incarnate, etched into every briefing. Maintain operational tempo, no unsanctioned pursuits. Hale's platoon mates exchanged glances, Diaz's medic bag slung ready, but his expression neutral, bound by the same code. Hale swallowed, the weight of eyes on him heavier than his ruck. Obedience had carried him through deployments, through the grind of selection where lesser men broke, but the boy's whisper, "Help my sister," replayed like radio chatter in his mind. What if security was delayed? A twisted ankle in the ravine could turn critical in these woods, ticks and exposure waiting. Rex growled low, pawing at the dirt, scattering leaves toward the drop-off. "Chief, permission to scout the trail. Rex has a lock. Could be minutes to confirm." Hale's request hung between them, a subtle push against the line. Ramirez's jaw set, the veins in his neck standing out. "Denied. That's not your lane. Finish the recon, or I'll log it as insubordination." The threat was quiet, laced with the authority of years, commanding men who stared down death. Hale's hand dropped to Rex's harness, feeling the dog's taut muscles beneath. Loyalty to the team, to the mission, clashed with the deeper bond, the one forged in silence and survival. The decision crystallized in an instant, born of instinct rather than debate. "Understood," Hale said, but he didn't move. Instead, he signaled Rex with a subtle hand gesture, "Forward scout, off-leash." The dog surged ahead, vanishing into the thicket with purposeful bounds, his black form blending into the shadows. Hale followed a beat later, boots careful on the uneven terrain, leaving the team path behind. "Hale!" Ramirez's voice cracked like a branch, but Hale was already committed, the ravine edge looming closer. The descent was treacherous, loose soil giving way underfoot, roots snaking like tripwires. Hale half slid, half controlled his drop, gloves scraping bark for purchase. Below, the ravine floor was a tangle of ferns and runoff, the air cooler, laced with the metallic tang of wet stone. Rex's barks echoed sharply now, urgent and rhythmic, guiding Hale through the gloom. "Rex, easy," he called, heart pounding against his vest. The paint drops continued, smeared on rocks and foliage. A child's haphazard markers in desperation. He found her 10 meters down, a girl, perhaps 10, sprawled awkwardly against a boulder, her leg bent at an unnatural angle. Blue paint streaked her arms and clothes from some backyard game gone wrong, now a trail to this mishap. She was conscious, pale face smudged with tears and dirt, clutching a broken branch like a crutch. "It hurts," she whimpered as Hale knelt, his training kicking in automatically. He assessed without touching, swelling around the knee, no obvious bleeding, but shock setting in from the chill. "Easy, ma'am. I'm here to help." Hale's voice was calm, the medic basics from his quals surfacing. He radioed Diaz instead of base, closer, equipped. "Corman, ravine at 2345. Female juvenile. Lower leg fracture suspected. Need evac sling." Rex circled the girl protectively, nosing her hand until she gripped his fur, a small comfort in the fear. Up top, Ramirez's silhouette appeared against the sky, his comms barking orders to halt the exercise. The chief's face was thunderous as he peered down. "Hale, stand down. That's direct disobedience." But Hale didn't look up, focused on stabilizing the girl's leg with his shemmer, the fabric unfolding like a banner of defiance. The team gathered at the edge, ropes uncoiling, the routine shattered by this human interruption. Diaz repelled first, his boots thudding beside Hale. "What the hell, man?" the corpsman muttered, but his hands moved efficiently, prepping the sling. The girl managed a weak smile at Rex, who lay beside her, tail thumping softly. Hale met Diaz's eyes briefly, understanding passing without words. Protocol bent, but lives hung in the balance. As they hoisted her up, the woods seemed to exhale, birds resuming their calls. Ramirez waited at the rim, notebook out, the investigation already forming in his stance. Hale climbed last, mud caking his gear, Rex at his side. The chief's stare was steel. "Debrief at 800. This isn't over." Hale nodded, the adrenaline fading into resolve. The exercise was lost, but something greater stirred. The quiet affirmation that conscience, like a dog's instinct, couldn't be leashed forever. The Humvees idled nearby now, base security arriving with flashing lights cutting through the trees. The siblings reunited in the back of an ambulance, the boys' relief palpable. Hale watched from afar, Rex leaning against his leg as the convoy pulled away. The morning's mist burned off, revealing a sky clear and unforgiving. In the chain of command, ripples spread, reports filed, superiors notified. Hale's choice, small in the moment, loomed larger, a test of the bonds that held them all. The debrief room at Little Creek smelled of stale coffee and polished oak, the fluorescent lights humming overhead like distant rotors. Petty Officer First Class. Marcus Hale stood at attention in the center, his uniform exchanged for a fresh set, though the mud from the ravine still lingered in the creases of his boots. Rex lay at his feet, harness removed, the dog's flanks rising steadily in the quiet. The Belgian Malinois had been cleared by the vet techs. Clean bill, no fatigue, but Hale could feel the subtle tension in Rex's posture, mirroring his own. Chief Petty Officer Ramirez sat at the head of the table, flanked by Lieutenant Ellis and a stern-faced Master Chief from Operations. The walls bore framed photos of past deployments, operators in desert fatigues, tridents gleaming under foreign suns. A recorder whirred softly on the table, capturing every word for the official log. Ramirez's eyes, sharp as bayonets, fixed on Hale. "Petty Officer Hale, walk us through the deviation, from the anomaly report onward." Hale's voice remained level, recounting the paint drops, the boy's whisper, Rex's alert. He described the ravine descent without flourish, the loose gravel underfoot, the chill rising from the stream bed, the girl's shallow breaths as Diaz splinted her leg. The child was in distress, Chief. Rex confirmed the trail. Delay could have escalated the injury. He kept his gaze forward, hands clasped behind his back, the posture drilled into him since Bud S. Ellis shifted in his seat, the lieutenant's notebook open but untouched. Base security confirmed the siblings. Army dependents out for an early hike. Girl's got a compound fracture but stable. Good work on the sling. His tone carried a hint of approval, but Ramirez cut it short with a raised hand. "That's not the point, Lieutenant. The point is protocol." The chief leaned forward, his chair creaking under the movement. "Training op integrity. You were ordered to radio and proceed. Instead, you went off-grid, off-leash. That's a direct violation of Article 92, failure to obey order or regulation." The words landed like spent casings, heavy and final. Hale felt the room contract, the air thick with the scent of ink from Ramirez's pen, scratching notes. "With respect, Chief," Hale replied, his pulse steady despite the knot in his gut. "The reg prioritizes life preservation, civilians on base grounds, immediate response." He thought of Rex's whine back in the woods, the dog's nose cutting through doubt like a knife. Loyalty wasn't just to orders, it was to the instinct that saved lives, human or canine. Ramirez's jaw tightened. "You don't interpret regs in the field, Hale. You execute. This sets a precedent. Every operator chasing side trails, we lose cohesion." The Master Chief nodded silently, his presence a wall of authority, years of command etched in his furrowed brow. Outside, the base stirred. Humvees rumbling past, a distant whistle from the obstacle course, but here, time stretched, the debrief a tribunal in miniature. The door swung open without a knock, admitting a civilian in khakis, base public affairs officer clipboard in hand. Gentlemen, media's sniffing around, local news got wind from the family's unit. SEAL saves child in training mishap. They're framing it as heroism. The officer's voice was neutral, but his eyes flicked to Hale, assessing. Ramirez's face darkened further. Contain it. No comments until command reviews. As the officer departed, Ellis cleared his throat. Chief, the team's backing Hale. Diaz logged the assist, says it was textbook field medicine. The lieutenant's support hung there, subtle but solid, the bond of the platoon asserting itself. Hale appreciated it, a quiet nod passing between them, but Ramirez wasn't swayed. Backing or not, this goes up the chain. Written statement by 1400. Dismissed. Hale saluted crisply, Rex rising to follow as they exited into the corridor. The linoleum echoed under their boots, fluorescent strips casting long shadows. He scratched Rex's ear absently, the dog's tongue lolling in brief relief. "Good boy," he murmured, the words a tether in the uncertainty. The rescue had rippled outward faster than expected, whispers in the chow hall, nods from passing sailors. But scrutiny followed, the kind that could dock pay, stall promotions, or worse, question his fitness for the teams. By midday, the incident had breached the base gates. Hale's radio buzzed during lunch in the mess. Call from the commandant's office. He reported to a larger briefing room where Colonel Vargas waited, a cluster of aides at his side. The colonel's desk held a tablet displaying the security footage. Grainy drone feed of the team halting, Hale vanishing into the brush. Petty officer, explain why you prioritize civilians over the exercise. Vargas's tone was measured, the Virginia drawl softening the edge, but his eyes demanded truth. Hale stood straight, Rex at heel, the dog's presence a silent advocate. Sir, the boy was alone, the girl unresponsive by description. Rex's alert indicated immediacy. Chain of command notified en route. He detailed the paint trail again, the sensory pull, the metallic scent of the ravine, the girl's whimpered pain. Vargas listened. Fingers steepled, the room silent save for the tick of a wall clock. The colonel leaned back. Commendable instinct, but dangerous precedent. Ramirez's report flags insubordination. Will convene a formal inquiry. Witness statements, full review. Hale nodded, the weight settling deeper. Outside the window, the woodlands stretched, innocent now in the afternoon sun, but marked by that morning's choice. Reporters lingered at the perimeter fence, cameras trained on the entrance, the story leaking into the public eye. As Hale returned to quarters, platoon mates gathered in the bay, Diaz clapping his shoulder, Ellis offering a water bottle. You did right, man. Rex knew. The corpsman's words carried the weight of shared deployments, where hunches became lifelines. But Hale saw the undercurrent, divided loyalties, the unit testing its own seams. Ramirez passed in the hall, gaze averted. The chief's silence louder than any reprimand. Evening fell with a humid hush, the base floodlights humming to life. Hale walked Rex along the perimeter trail, the dog's paws padding softly on gravel. The inquiry loomed, a public reckoning that could redefine his career, the hero's salute or the disobedience mark. In the distance, helicopter blades thumped, a routine patrol lifting off. Hale paused, hand on Rex's head, feeling the steady heartbeat beneath fur. Conscience had led them off the path once. Now, the institution demanded they justify every step. Words spread through the ranks like radio chatter. Operators in the gym murmuring approval, instructors in the ready room debating regs. The family's thanks arrived via email. The girl, Emily, stable in the base clinic, her brother drawing a picture of a black dog in blue paint, but Hale filed it away. Focus on the hearing. Tomorrow witnesses would testify the moral fracture laid bare under scrutiny. Rex whined softly, nose to the wind, as if sensing the storm ahead. Hale clipped the leash, turning back toward the lights, the bond between them unyielding amid the gathering tide. Comment where you're watching from. I want to know how far stories of courage and integrity can reach. The inquiry room at Little Creek Naval Base was a stark contrast to the woodland chaos of 2 days prior. Sterile white walls lined with American flags and unit crests, the air conditioned to a crisp edge that raised gooseflesh under Hale's crisp khaki uniform. He entered at precisely 0900, Rex at heel, the dog's nails clicking softly on the tile floor. The Belgian Malinois wore a simple working vest today, no harness, his presence cleared by command as both asset and witness in this procedural drama. Hale's boots echoed as he took his position at the witness stand, a plain wooden podium facing a panel of 3. Colonel Vargas presiding, flanked by a JAG officer and Chief Ramirez, whose notebook lay open like an open wound. "Sit," Hale commanded quietly, and Rex settled beside the podium, ears alert, black eyes scanning the room. The panel members wore dress blues, ribbons arrayed in precise rows, the scent of shoe polish mingling with the faint ozone from the overhead projector. Vargas adjusted his glasses, the light catching the silver eagle on his collar. "Petty Officer Hale, this formal inquiry under UCMJ Article 32 examines the incident during training exercise Alpha 7. Swear in." Hale raised his right hand, reciting the oath with mechanical precision, his voice steady, though the knot in his stomach twisted tighter. The JAG officer, a lieutenant commander with a clipboard of statements, began the questioning. Described the moment Chief Ramirez issued the order to proceed with the exercise. Hale recounted it methodically, the mist clinging to ferns, the boy's dirt-streaked face, Rex's insistent whine pulling toward the ravine. He detailed the radio call to base security, the chief's denial of the scout request, and his subsequent decision to follow the dog. Rex's behavior indicated imminent threat to life, ma'am. In prior ops, that alert has prevented casualties. His words were clipped, professional, avoiding any plea for sympathy. This was fact, not emotion. Ramirez leaned forward, his testimony following like a counterpoint. Hale was clear on orders. Maintain vector, notify, and continue. He unclipped the K9 and pursued without authorization. Halting the entire team, exercise aborted, evaluators logged it as a failure. The chief's tone was even, but his fingers drummed the table edge, a subtle rhythm betraying the frustration. Hale met his gaze briefly, respect intact despite the rift. Ramirez had pulled him from a ditch in Helmand once, a debt unspoken but heavy. Witnesses filed in one by one. Lieutenant Ellis took the stand first, his posture ramrod straight. "Hale's actions were instinctive, sir. The paint trail was anomalous. Rex locked on it like an IED signature. Delaying could have meant worse for the civilian." Ellis's support was measured, citing regs on imminent peril, but he avoided overstatement, knowing the panel valued discipline over drama. Corman Diaz followed, describing the medevac. The girl's pale skin clammy under the ravine shade, her fractured tibia swelling against the splint. Stable extraction, thanks to quick response. No complications. He glanced at Hale, a nod passing like a silent salute. The room grew warmer as the morning wore on, the AC struggling against the press of bodies, 6 operators from the team, plus the base security sergeant who arrived post-rescue. Outside, the Virginia sun climbed, filtering through blinds in golden slats that danced across the floor. Rex shifted once, a low huff escaping, drawing eyes. The dog sensed the tension, his bond with Hale a quiet anchor amid the scrutiny. The security sergeant testified last, arrived Uru 715, siblings confirmed, father's a major in logistics, girl Emily, 8 years old. paint from a family art kit. They wandered off-trail, chasing fireflies at dawn. Vargas halted proceedings briefly for a recess, the panel retreating to deliberate. Hale stepped out into the corridor, where platoon mates waited in clusters, murmuring in low tones. "Holding up?" Ellis asked, handing him a bottled water, condensation beading cold on the plastic. Hale nodded, twisting the cap. "Just facts, LT. Rex did the heavy lifting." The dog leaned against his leg, warm fur pressing through the uniform pants, a reminder of the instinct that started this. Whispers from the hall carried news. Local outlets had run the story. SEAL dog leads heroic rescue, with photos of the ambulance lights piercing the woods. Public Affairs was fielding calls. The base commander's office issuing a no-comment directive. Resuming after lunch, the inquiry turned to consequences. The JAG projected timelines. Exercise delay cost 4. 2 man-hours. Evaluators rescheduling 2 rotations. "Precedent matters," Vargas stated, his voice gravelly from years of briefings. "SEALs operate on trust in the chain. Deviation erodes that." Hale absorbed it, standing silent as Ramirez elaborated on unit cohesion, the potential for every handler to chase hunches, fracturing ops tempo. But the colonel interjected, pulling up the clinic report. Emily's leg set cleanly, discharge expected in days, her drawing of Rex now pinned in the command hallway. "Petty officer," Vargas addressed him directly, "your record is exemplary. 3 deployments, K9 commendations. Explain the calculus, order versus action." Hale paused, choosing words with care. "Sir, orders preserve the mission. But the mission includes protecting all under our watch, civilians included. Rex's training is for detection under stress. Ignoring it risked lives." The room held its breath, the clock ticking toward 1500. Rex's tail thumped once softly against the tile. The panel recessed again, this time for final review. Hale waited in the antechamber, the weight of uncertainty settling like dew on his shoulders. Media vans idled beyond the gate, reporters scribbling notes on the mishap that blurred lines between drill and duty. His phone buzzed, a text from Diaz. "Family sent thanks, girl wants to meet Rex." Hale pocketed it, focusing on the door. The inquiry wasn't just about him. It probed the system's seams, where loyalty to man and beast intersected rigid protocol. When Vargas reconvened, the colonel's expression was unreadable. Findings: no malice, but procedural lapse. Recommendation: formal counseling, no loss of rank. Commendation for the rescue pending command approval. Relief rippled through the room. Subtle, Ellis's shoulders easing, Ramirez's pen stilling, but Vargas added, "This escalates to full review. Public interest demands transparency. Expect testimony from the family." Hale saluted, Rex rising fluidly. "Understood, sir." Exiting into the afternoon glare, Hale walked the perimeter with Rex, the base alive with routine. Sailors jogging in PT gear, a Black Hawk thumping overhead, rotors slicing the humid air. The inquiry's shadow lingered, but so did the affirmation, conscience tested, not broken. Whispers among the ranks grew, Hale as symbol, the dog as truth-teller. Yet the chain pulled tighter. Tomorrow's family meeting would thrust the private act into public light, where institutional justice weighed every word. Rex nosed a leaf, tail low, as Hale clipped the leash. The path ahead, winding like the ravine trail, uncharted but resolute. The base clinic's waiting area hummed with the low murmur of voices and the antiseptic tang of floor polish, a far cry from the woodland's raw earthiness. Petty Officer First Class. Marcus Hale arrived at 1400 sharp, Rex padding silently at his side, the dog's vest freshly brushed to remove any lingering trail dust. The Virginia sun slanted through the windows, casting elongated shadows across the linoleum, where families in civilian clothes mingled with uniformed personnel, wives clutching magazines, a toddler testing the limits of his leash. Hale's khakis were starched, his cover tucked under his arm, but the inquiry's residue clung like morning dew. Vargas's measured verdict, the promise of commendation shadowed by scrutiny. A nurse in scrubs directed him to a side room, her badge glinting under the fluorescence. Families expecting you. The girl's stable. Cast on, pain managed. Hale nodded, clipping Rex's lead shorter as they entered. The space was compact, a bed with crisp sheets, monitors beeping softly, and a window overlooking the manicured lawns where orderlies pushed gurneys in precise arcs. Emily lay propped against pillows, her leg elevated in a blue fiberglass cast that matched the paint flecks from the ravine. At 8, she looked small but resilient, her dark hair tied back, eyes lighting up at the sight of Rex. "Mr. Dog!" she exclaimed, her voice muffled by the room's quiet. The boy, her brother Tommy, sat beside her on a rolling chair, his own scrapes bandaged, clutching a crayon drawing of a black canine hero amid swirling blue lines. Their father, Major Harlan Reed, a logistics officer with a salt-and-pepper moustache and a handshake firm as regulation, rose from the corner chair. "Petty Officer Hale, we've been waiting. This is my wife, Laura." "Mrs." Reed offered a grateful smile, her eyes red-rimmed but composed, the family's army poise evident in their posture. Hale saluted instinctively, then extended his hand. "Sir, ma'am, glad to see her on the mend." Rex sat on command, tail thumping once against the tile, his nose twitching toward the cast, as if confirming the scent of healing. Emily reached out tentatively, and Hale guided her hand to the dog's head, watching the gentle stroke elicit a soft whine of approval. The moment stretched, human vulnerability piercing the clinical sterility, the girl's fingers trembling slightly in Rex's fur, Tommy's wide-eyed awe bridging the gap between child and operator. Major Reed cleared his throat, pulling a chair closer. "Command cleared this visit. We owe you, both of you." He gestured to Rex, his voice carrying the weight of a fellow officer's respect. "Tommy says the dog found the paint drops when he couldn't explain. Led you right to her." Hale recounted the sequence briefly, sticking to facts. The anomaly in the exercise, Rex's alert, the ravine's slick drop. He omitted the defiance, the chief's barked denial, letting the rescue stand on its merits. Mrs. Reed leaned forward, her hands clasped. She slipped chasing butterflies, dawn light, thought it was a game. Tommy ran for help, but the trail. It was chaos. Emily interrupted, her cast shifting with a faint rustle. Rex knew, like magic. The words hung, simple yet profound, drawing a low chuckle from the major, but Hale saw the undercurrent, gratitude laced with questions, the family's awareness of the base's rumor mill. "Heard about the inquiry," Reed said quietly, glancing at the door as if expecting interruption. "Insubordination charge? For this?" Hale met his gaze steadily. "Protocol bent, sir, but lives first. Rex doesn't read regs. He reads the air." The conversation flowed in measured beats, the family sharing details of their morning hike. Firefly jars from the night before, paint from a weekend craft session smudged on hands and clothes. Tommy demonstrated with a crayon, mimicking the drops on a notepad, his small fingers precise. Rex nosed the paper, eliciting laughter that softened the room's edges. Hale felt the bond deepen, not just with the dog, but with these civilians whose world intersected his so rarely, dependence woven into the base's fabric, vulnerable to its fringes. As Emily tired, her eyelids drooping, Mrs. Reed pressed a thank-you card into Hale's hand, a handmade sketch of the team, Rex at the fore. Outside, the major walked them to the corridor, his stride matching Hale's. "I'll submit a statement to command. This wasn't just a save, it was instinct in action." Reed's words carried institutional weight, a logistics mind mapping the ripples, unit morale, public perception. Hale nodded, clipping Rex's lead as they stepped into the afternoon heat. The clinic doors hissing shut behind. The perimeter road bustled, sailors in PT shorts jogging intervals, a supply truck rumbling past with the scent of canvas and fuel. But Hale's radio crackled before they reached the barracks. Public affairs, urgent tone. Hale, media's at the gate. Family story leaked. Reporters want your side. The command center briefing followed at 1600, a windowless room alive with screens and the hum of servers. Colonel Vargas presided, maps of the base pinned to foam boards. Coffee steam rising from mugs in precise alignment. Ramirez stood at parade rest, his expression neutral, while the public affairs officer, Lieutenant Hayes, projected headlines. SEAL defies orders for child rescue from the local Norfolk paper, a grainy photo of the ravine edge. It's viral, Hayes said, scrolling feeds on his tablet, shares from military families, comments praising the dog. But critics, undermines discipline is from a vet forum. Vargas's fingers drummed the table, the rhythm echoing the distant thump of a helo on approach. This escalates beyond inquiry. Full press conference tomorrow, command level. Hale, you'll speak. Stick to facts, anomaly detected, response initiated, positive outcome. The colonel's eyes lingered on Rex, who sat alert beside Hale. The dog's presence a subtle challenge to the room's formality. Ramirez shifted, his voice low. Sir, emphasizing the deviation sets a tone. Operators need clear lines. The debate unfolded methodically, Hayes advocating transparency to shape the narrative, Vargas weighing operational security against public trust. Hale remained silent, absorbing the procedural dance, the moral tension coiling tighter. His act, born of conscience, now a fulcrum for the institution's image. Loyalty to the team clashed with the broader legacy, where one handler's choice could redefine K9 protocols or handler autonomy. As the meeting adjourned, Vargas pulled Hale aside. Your record holds, petty officer, but tomorrow words matter as much as actions. Represent the trident. Dusk settled over Little Creek as Hale walked Rex along the kennel path, floodlights flickering on one by one, casting pools of yellow on the gravel. The dog's paws crunched softly, his nose working the evening breeze scented with bay water and grilled rations from the mess. Platoon mates nodded in passing, Diaz with a thumbs up, Ellis murmuring, "Own it, brother." But Hale felt the scrutiny's expansion. Reporters beyond the wire, families like the Reeds amplifying the story, the chain of command recalibrating under spotlights. In the quiet of the handler's bunk, Hale reviewed notes for the presser, key phrases drilled like op orders, team effort, instinct and training, lives protected. Rex curled at the foot of the cot, a warm weight amid the uncertainty. The defiance that began in the woods now echoed through halls of power, testing not just one man's resolve, but the system's capacity for quiet reform. Tomorrow's words would ripple further, conscience under public gaze, the bond with Rex an unyielding compass in the glare. The morning of the press conference dawned with a relentless humidity that pressed against the windows of the base briefing hall. The air inside conditioned to a sterile chill that did little to ease the tension coiling in Marcus Hale's chest. He stood in the anteroom at 0830, adjusting the knot of his dress blues, the fabric crisp against his skin, ribbons pinned in neat rows above his heart. Rex sat at his feet, the dog's working vest exchanged for a simple collar, his black coat brushed to a subtle sheen under the fluorescent lights. The scent of fresh coffee mingled with the faint polish of the wooden podium visible through the half-open door, where public affairs staff bustled, microphones being tested with sharp pops that echoed like distant small arms fire. Lieutenant Hayes approached, tablet in hand, his khakis rumpled from an early start. Timelines tight, Hale. Command intro, your statement. 3 minutes max. No Q&A unless Vargas clears it. Stick to the script. Anomaly, response, outcome. Hale nodded, scanning the printed remarks, phrases honed overnight. Team protocol guided the action. K9 asset confirmed the need. Positive resolution for all involved. The words felt like a leash, restraining the raw instinct that had driven him into the ravine. Outside, the parking lot filled with media vans, their satellite dishes angling skyward like radar arrays. Reporters milling beyond the security checkpoint, notebooks at the ready. Colonel Vargas entered, his presence commanding immediate attention. The silver eagles on his shoulders catching the light. Petty officer, this is about the institution, not personal glory. Represent accordingly. His voice was gravel steady, eyes flicking to Rex, who met the gaze without flinching. Ramirez lingered in the doorway, arms crossed, his nod to Hale a mix of duty and unresolved friction. The chief's report still a shadow in the room. Hale saluted crisply. "Aye, sir." The colonel clapped his shoulder once, a rare gesture before leading them in. The hall seated 50, a mix of base personnel in rows of folding chairs, cameras arrayed at the front, red lights blinking like watchful eyes. The hum of air handlers overhead blended with the shuffle of feet on carpet, the Virginia sun filtering through tinted windows in hazy beams. Vargas took the podium first, his introduction measured. On June 12th, during a routine training evolution, Petty Officer Hale and his K9 partner responded to an unforeseen civilian emergency. This reflects the Navy's commitment to life preservation within our operational framework. Applause rippled politely, but Hale felt the undercurrent, reporters leaning forward, pens poised. Hale stepped up as cued, Rex heeling flawlessly to his left, the dog's paws silent on the low-pile rug. He placed a hand on the podium, the wood cool under his palm, and began. That morning, our team was conducting woodland navigation when Petty Officer Hale, wait, no. He cleared his throat, steadying. When my K9 Rex alerted to an anomaly, a trail of blue paint drops deviating from the exercise path. A young boy emerged, reporting his sister injured in a nearby ravine. Following protocol, I notified base security and initiated a rapid assessment. Rex's training and detection under stress guided us to the location where Corpsman Diaz provided immediate aid. The words flowed, procedural and restrained, but Hale's eyes caught the family's faces in the front row, Major Reed nodding, Emily in a wheelchair, her cast propped, Tommy clutching a stuffed Malinois toy. Questions erupted as Hayes tried to wrap it, voices overlapping in a cacophony that drowned the AC hum. A local reporter, microphone thrust forward, cut through. Petty Officer, reports say you defied a direct order from your chief to pursue. Was this insubordination or heroism? Hale's pulse quickened, the room's air thickening, but he held the line. All actions aligned with Navy regs on imminent peril, ma'am. The chain of command was informed throughout. Rex shifted subtly, a low huff escaping, sensing the spike in tension like a change in wind. Vargas interjected smoothly, fielding the next. How does this impact SEAL training protocols? The colonel outlined the inquiry's findings, counseling for Hale but commendation review underway, framing it as a learning evolution. Ramirez stood off stage, his expression unreadable, but Hale caught the chief's subtle nod to Ellis in the wings, a sign the platoon held firm. Cameras flashed, capturing Rex's alert posture, the dog's image destined for front pages. Emily waved shyly, her small gesture drawing smiles from the audience, humanizing the sterile exchange. As the conference adjourned, the hall emptied in waves, reporters filing out with murmured speculations, base staff dispersing to duties. Hale knelt to unclip Rex's lead, the dog's warm breath against his hand, a grounding force amid the fading echoes. Major Reed approached, Emily's wheelchair rolling forward, the girl's eyes bright. You told it true. Reed said quietly, shaking Hale's hand. Command's reviewing K9 leeway because of this. The words carried promise, the institutional gears turning under public pressure. Back in the command center by 1100, the response unfolded in a flurry of memos and calls. Vargas convened a quick huddle, screens displaying media hits, CNN clip on "The Dog That Defied Orders," shares climbing into the thousands. "Public's on your side, Hale," the public affairs officer noted, scrolling analytics. But internal pushback. Ops Command wants stricter handler guidelines to prevent copycats. Ramirez contributed evenly. Recommend enhanced SIMs, integrating civilian scenarios, builds judgment without breaking form. The chief's concession was subtle, a bridge mending the rift born of the shared spotlight. Hale absorbed it, standing at ease, Rex at his side. The reckoning had crystallized, his defiance, once a private fracture, now visible in headlines and briefings, forcing the system to confront its edges. Whispers from the platoon reached him later. Diaz in the gym. "You're changing the playbook, man." But scrutiny lingered. A formal commendation board loomed. Witnesses reconvened. Outside, the midday sun baked the tarmac, helicopters thumping in the distance, routine unbroken yet subtly altered. By evening, as Hale walked the kennel perimeter with Rex, the air cooling to carry scents of salt marsh and diesel, a command email arrived, full exoneration, plus a unit-wide directive on K9 instinct protocols. The revelation rippled, mentorship sessions planned, Hale tapped to lead. The woods beyond the fence stood silent, paint drops long faded, but their legacy endured in the quiet reform, stirring through the ranks. Rex's tail swished low, nose to the breeze as Hale paused, the weight lifting fractionally. Conscience, tested in the glare, had forged a path forward, loyalty's bond the unyielding guide. If this story already has your respect, hit the like button. It helps the story of Marcus Hale reach those who still believe in honor. Weeks passed, in the measured rhythm of Little Creek, where the Virginia woodlands shed their summer green for hints of autumn gold, leaves crunching under boots during morning PT runs. Petty Officer First Class. Marcus Hale moved through the routine with a quiet steadiness, his dress blues traded back for the familiar weight of camouflage and plate carrier. Rex trotted at his heel during daily patrols along the perimeter fence, the dog's nose sifting the salt-laced breeze, oblivious to the shifts rippling through the base. The press conference had faded from front pages, but its echoes lingered in briefings and barracks conversations, nods of respect from passing sailors, a subtle deference in Ramirez's clipped orders during evolutions. The commendation board convened in a low-ceiling conference room off the operations center, the air thick with the scent of marker ink from whiteboards mapping training grids. Hale stood at attention before the panel, Colonel Vargas at the center, flanked by a JAG captain and the K9 program coordinator, a grizzled master chief with a notebook of incident reports. Rex sat precisely positioned, his harness gleaming under the recessed lights, ears perked as if attuned to the proceedings. "Petty Officer Hale," Vargas began, his voice carrying the gravel of command, "your actions during Exercise Alpha 7 demonstrated exceptional judgment under ambiguity. The inquiry confirmed no violation, rather an evolution in protocol application." Hale kept his gaze forward, hands clasped behind his back, the cool tile seeping through his boots. "Thank you, sir." The words were simple, drilled into him through years of after-action reviews, but inside, the knot of uncertainty unraveled slowly. The Master Chief leaned in, flipping pages. Rex's detection, paint volatiles mimicking explosive residues in low light, highlights untapped K9 utility in domestic scenarios. Recommendation: integrate civilian anomaly drills into standard rotations. Ramirez, seated to the side as observer, nodded once, his earlier reservations tempered by the data. No exercise failures since, team cohesion intact. The board's decision landed with procedural finality. A Navy Achievement Medal for Hale, etched with the trident, to be pinned during the next all-hands ceremony. But the true reform stirred deeper. A directive from NavSpec Warcom circulated base-wide, mandating K9 handler autonomy in life-threat assessments. Instinct complements orders, the memo read, its language precise, avoiding fanfare. Hale's role expanded. Lead instructor for quarterly sims, where operators practice deviations under controlled stress, Rex demonstrating the paint trail on a mock ravine setup. Platoon mates like Ellis and Diaz attended the first session, their feedback sharpening the curriculum. Radio protocols tightened, but leeway for alerts codified. In the kennels that evening, Hale brushed Rex's coat under the harsh glow of hanging bulbs, the dog's fur releasing a faint, earthy scent from the day's run. "You started this, boy," he murmured, the words lost in the hum of ventilation fans. Rex leaned into the strokes, tail swishing low, his bond with Hale a silent testament to the trust that had bent the chain without breaking it. Outside, the floodlights bathed the grounds in amber, helicopters winding down on distant pads, their rotors fading to whispers. The base felt changed, subtly, handlers walking dogs with a fraction more confidence, chiefs briefing with nods to Hale precedent. The pinning ceremony unfolded on a crisp October morning in the base quadrangle, ranks assembled under a sky streaked with contrails. Uniforms snapped in the wind off the Chesapeake, medals clinking softly as families watched from the sidelines. Emily Reed, her cast long removed, stood with her family in the front row, Tommy clutching a new drawing of Rex amid blue swirls. Major Reed saluted as Hale approached the podium, the girl's small hand waving from her father's side. Vargas pinned the medal with steady hands, the ribbon's weight settling against Hale's chest like an anchor. "For actions that upheld our core values," the colonel announced. His voice amplified over the PA, carrying to the assembled hundreds. Applause rose in disciplined waves, but Hale's eyes met Ramirez's across the formation, the chief's expression one of quiet reconciliation, forged in the shared scrutiny. Post-ceremony, the Reeds approached, Emily's steps tentative on the gravel. "Can I pet him?" she asked, and Hale knelt, guiding her hand to Rex's head. The dog nuzzled gently, eliciting a giggle that cut through the formal air. "He remembers," Tommy said, awe in his voice. Major Reed clasped Hale's forearm. "Your stand prompted Army reviews too. Cross-branch protocols. Lives beyond this base. Word of the reforms spread through military networks, quiet endorsements from commands in Coronado and Dam Neck, enhanced K9 training modules, ethics briefs incorporating the incident. Hale mentored new handlers in the evenings, sessions in the obstacle course where dogs navigated simulated civilian trails, operators debating orders versus alerts under floodlights. Diaz joined often, his medic insights weaving in rapid response tactics. "You made it real," the corpsman said one night as they coiled ropes after a drill, the scent of sweat and wet earth heavy in the cooling air. Hale shrugged, but the transformation settled deep, the symbol of moral strength emerging not in glory, but in the steady grind of institutional learning. Months later, during a joint exercise with Army units, Hale led a K9 demo, Rex tracing a fresh paint line through underbrush to a mock casualty. Observers nodded, notebooks filling with notes on the Hale protocol. Ramirez oversaw from the sidelines, his whistle sharp but approving. The woodlands, once a site of defiance, now echoed with structured barks and commands, the system's seams reinforced by one man's conscience. In the quiet dawn patrols that followed, Hale and Rex walked the familiar paths, the bond between them a legacy etched in every step. Discipline tempered by loyalty, orders enlightened by instinct. The base carried on, its rhythms unbroken, but forever marked by the whisper that led them off the trail. Subscribe for more stories of loyalty, courage and justice within the ranks. Thank you for watching the case of Help My Sister. The child whispered, the seal's dog, followed drops of paint through the woods. See you in the next one.